What if the greatest city ever built is not a legend? What if right now, beneath your feet, beneath shifting dunes that stretch further than the eye can ever see, an entire civilization is waiting, silent, buried, perfectly preserved beneath thousands of years of desert sand? What if the most spectacular city in all of human history was not lost to war, not destroyed by plague, not swallowed by the sea, but vanished in a single, terrifying moment, because its king dared to do the one thing no man should ever do? He tried to build paradise on earth. His name was Shaddad ibn Ad. His city was called Iram. And for over 4,000 years, it has sat somewhere beneath the sands of the Arabian desert described in the Quran, recorded by ancient historians, searched for by explorers across 14 centuries, and never found, until a satellite changed everything. This is the story of the most mysterious lost city in the ancient world. This is the story of a king who built heaven and was swallowed by hell. This is the story of a real discovery, buried under one of the most hostile and remote places on the surface of this earth, a place the Arabs still call the Empty Quarter, the Rub al-Khali, a desert so vast, so merciless, so absolute that it has swallowed entire armies, entire caravans, entire civilizations without leaving a single trace. And somewhere inside it, something is waiting to be found. Stay with me, because this story is going to change the way you see the desert forever. To understand Iram, you first have to understand the people who built it. Because without them, without their extraordinary power, their staggering arrogance, and their catastrophic end, the city makes no sense. The tribe of Ad were, by every ancient account, unlike any people who had come before them. They lived in the southern reaches of the Arabian Peninsula, in a region that today is almost entirely uninhabitable, the vast, baking wilderness that stretches across modern Yemen, Oman, and Saudi Arabia. But 4,000 years ago, this land was different. The climate was wetter. Rivers ran where there are now only dry riverbeds. Vegetation covered hillsides that are today bare rock. And into this fertile, ancient landscape, the tribe of Ad grew and grew and grew until they were the most powerful civilization in that part of the ancient world. Early Arab historians described them with a kind of reverent terror. They were tall. Some accounts describe them as physically massive, towering over other men. They were strong. They were skilled in engineering and construction in ways that seemed to defy explanation. They built structures that their contemporaries regarded as impossible. They moved stone that no ordinary human workforce should have been able to move. They carved into mountains. They raised towers that reached toward the sky. And they knew it. That is the critical detail. The tribe of Ad knew exactly how powerful they were. And over generations, that knowledge curdled into something dangerous, into pride, into arrogance, into the specific kind of blindness that comes when a civilization becomes so confident in its own power that it stops believing anything in the universe is greater than itself. Prophets were sent to warn them. The Prophet Hud, peace be upon him, came to the tribe of Ad and told them plainly, "Turn back, lower your pride, remember that all power belongs to God alone." The tribe of Ad laughed at him. They dismissed him. They pointed to their towers, their armies, their cities, and they asked a question that echoed with contempt: "Who is stronger than us?" They would receive their answer. But before the answer came, before the reckoning that would erase them from the face of the earth, one man among them decided to attempt the greatest act of construction the ancient world had ever seen. That man was Shaddad ibn Ad. And what he decided to build was nothing less than paradise itself. The ancient texts are specific, not vague, not poetic, specific. And that specificity is what makes them so haunting, because it is the specificity of someone describing something real. Shaddad had heard descriptions of Jannah, of paradise, the garden that awaits the righteous in the next world. A place of rivers and gardens and towers and light, a place of impossible beauty, a place of rest and plenty and wonder. And Shaddad, in the consuming arrogance of his power, decided that he did not want to wait for the next life. He wanted paradise now. He wanted it here. He wanted it built from stone and gold and precious gems, and he wanted to walk through its gates himself. He summoned his architects. He summoned his engineers. He spread his empire's entire wealth and workforce toward a single goal, and he gave them an instruction that no king in history had ever given before. Build me heaven. Construction began, and by every account, what rose from the desert sand was extraordinary beyond imagining. The walls of Iram were built from brick, but not ordinary brick. The bricks were alternated, one of gold, one of silver, layer upon layer, rising into walls that caught the desert sun and blazed like fire visible from 100 miles away. The pillars, the famous pillars that gave the city one of its names, Iram Datal, Imad, Iram of the pillars, were not mere columns of stone. They were towers. Vast, soaring towers of white marble, so tall that travelers approaching the city from the desert said the pillars appeared before anything else on earth, rising above the horizon like fingers reaching for the clouds. The streets were paved, not with stone, with slabs of gold and silver laid so precisely, so smoothly, that they shone like still water. Walking through those streets, in the light of the Arabian sun, would have felt like walking on the surface of the sun itself. The gems. Every account agrees on the gems. Rubies set into the walls like the eyes of some enormous, sleeping creature. Emeralds carved into decorative panels. Sapphires embedded in the archways over every doorway. Pearls, freshwater pearls, from a time when the rivers still ran, pressed into the plaster of interior walls until entire rooms sparkled like the inside of an oyster. And the gardens. Inside the walls of Iram, Shaddad's engineers had accomplished something that even by modern standards is remarkable. They had built a system of channels, pipes, and aqueducts that brought water into the heart of the city and distributed it through garden after garden after garden. Every courtyard bloomed. Every avenue was shaded by trees, heavy with fruit. The fragrance of the garden's jasmine, rose, and frankincense was said to reach travelers before they could even see the city's walls. Historians estimate, and this is where the legend connects with genuine archaeological possibility, that the construction of a city matching this description would have required a workforce of tens of thousands, sustained over a period of several generations. The organizational capacity alone would have required a civilization of extraordinary sophistication, a civilization exactly like the tribe of Ad. It is said that construction lasted 300 years, that Shaddad himself did not live to see it completed, that his sons and grandsons continued the work in his name, that when it was finally finished, when the last gem was set, the last garden planted, the last pillar raised to its full height, the city stood empty and perfect in the heart of the desert, waiting for its king's descendants to enter. And the king of that generation, bearing the name and the legacy of Shaddad, prepared to claim what his ancestor had built. He gathered his people, he gathered his army, he organized the greatest procession in the history of the tribe of Ad. And they began to march toward Iram. They marched for days through the desert. The towers appeared on the horizon exactly as the legends had promised, visible before anything else, rising above the sand like white flames. They marched closer. The walls became visible. Then the gates, enormous gates of carved wood and gold, sealed shut, waiting to be opened for the first time. The procession stopped just one day's journey from the gates, and the sky went dark. It came without warning, not a storm that built slowly on the horizon, not a wind that began as a breeze and strengthened gradually. It came the way divine judgment always comes, in the ancient texts, absolute, immediate, and total. The Quran records it in Surah Al-Fajr, with a simplicity that is more devastating than any dramatic description could ever be. Allah says, "Have you not seen how your Lord dealt with Iram, who had lofty pillars, the like of which were never created in the land, and with Thamud, who carved the rocks in the valley, and with Pharaoh, owner of the stakes, all of whom oppressed in the lands, and spread corruption therein, so your Lord poured upon them a whip of punishment. Indeed, your Lord is in observation." The classical commentators on this verse describe what happened to Ad as a wind unlike any other, a wind that came from the desert itself and lasted 7 nights and 8 days without pause, relentless, cold, screaming through the pillars of Iram, tearing apart everything the tribe had built, scattering them and erasing them from the earth as completely as if they had never existed. Not a single member of the tribe of Ad survived, not one. And the city, the extraordinary, unprecedented 300 years in the making city, was buried, swallowed by the desert, covered by sand, hidden away beneath the surface of the earth where no human eye would find it. The procession that had nearly reached the gates was gone. The king who had come to claim paradise was gone. The architects, the engineers, the soldiers, the servants gone. All of them gone in 8 days, leaving nothing behind but flat desert and silence. The empty quarter earned its name in that moment, and Iram, the city of 1,000 pillars, waited beneath the sand. For over 1,000 years, scholars, historians, and explorers treated Iram as a spiritual parable, a story about pride, a lesson about the consequences of arrogance. Something to reflect on, not something to search for. But the Arab geographers of the 9th and 10th centuries were not so quick to dismiss it. Ibn Khordadbeh, writing in the 9th century, included references to Iram in his geographical surveys of Arabia. Al-Hamdani, one of the greatest geographers of medieval Islam, wrote about the region of the empty quarter with a careful, specific attention that suggests he believed there was something real to be found there. He collected accounts from Bedouin, guides, men who had crossed the empty quarter in its entirety, men who knew every dune and dry riverbed, and some of those guides described something extraordinary. During the most intense sandstorms, when the wind strips the desert surface bare and temporarily reveals what lies beneath, some travelers claim to have glimpsed the tops of structures, towers, walls, cut stone, visible for a moment, and then, as the storm subsided and the sand resettled, gone again, buried again, hidden again. These accounts circulated for centuries. They were written down, they were passed from scholar to scholar, generation to generation, and they kept the question alive: is Iram real? In the 19th and early 20th centuries, European explorers began to take the question seriously in a new way. The British officer Bertram Thomas crossed the empty quarter in 1931, the first Westerner to do so, and his Bedouin guides pointed to a place in the desert and told him, "There, beneath the sand, is the road that leads to the city of Ad." They believed it, completely, without hesitation. Thomas recorded it, filed it away, and the world moved on. Then came 1992, and a satellite changed everything. Nicholas Clapp was a filmmaker and amateur archaeologist. He had read everything he could find about Iram, the Quran, the medieval geographers, the accounts of the Bedouin guides. And he had a theory, not a vague theory, a specific one. He believed that Iram was not a mythological city. He believed it was a real trading city, a hub on the ancient frankincense trade routes that connected southern Arabia to the Mediterranean world. He believed it had existed, that it had been extraordinarily wealthy, and that it was buried somewhere in the empty quarter. What he needed was a way to see through the sand. He got one. Working with researchers at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Clapp gained access to imaging technology, originally developed to map the surface of other planets, radar that could penetrate beneath the surface of the Earth and reveal features invisible to any human eye. They pointed this technology at the empty quarter, and they found roads. Not one road, a network of roads, converging from multiple directions across hundreds of miles of desert, meeting at a single point. Roads that had been buried under sand for thousands of years, invisible to every explorer who had ever crossed that desert on foot or by camel or by vehicle. Roads that no natural geological process could have created. Roads are built for one reason, because they lead somewhere. The roads led to a site near the modern Omani town of Shisr, and at that site there was already a known ruin. A structure that local Bedouin had always called the Old Fort, that archaeologists had documented but never fully excavated. When Clapp's team arrived and began to dig properly for the first time with the satellite data as their guide, what they uncovered was extraordinary. Circular towers at the corners of a massive enclosure, walls of cut stone, artifacts consistent with the ancient frankincense trade, inscriptions, evidence of a prosperous, sophisticated settlement dating back approximately 4,000 years, and evidence of how it ended. The site had not been abandoned gradually. There was no layer of slow decline, no evidence of gradual depopulation. The archaeological record showed sudden, catastrophic abandonment. And beneath the ruins, directly beneath the structure, there was a void, a vast underground cave system hollowed out over thousands of years by ancient water that had since retreated from the region. The ground had simply given way. The entire eastern portion of the site had collapsed into the cavern below. The city had not been buried by sand, drifting over it across centuries. It had fallen, swallowed whole, in a single moment into the earth beneath it. The New York Times ran the story on the front page. They called it the Atlantis of the Sands. Clapp's team called it Ubar, the ancient name for the great city of southern Arabia, recorded in pre-Islamic poetry. Others connected it directly to Iram. Whether the names are identical or simply related, the underlying reality seemed undeniable. This was a real place, a real civilization, a real catastrophe, and it matched the story in ways that no one had expected. But here is where the story becomes something more than archaeology. Here is where it becomes something that should genuinely keep you awake at night. The Shisr site, the excavated ruins, represents only the surface of what is down there. The cave systems beneath the empty quarter are vast. Geological surveys of the region have revealed a network of underground chambers that extend for miles in every direction beneath the desert floor. The ancient water that carved those chambers when the Arabian Peninsula was, thousands of years ago, far wetter than it is today, left behind a labyrinth of underground spaces that have never been fully explored. The portions of Iram or Ubar that have been excavated represent, by the estimates of the archaeologists who worked the site, a fraction of the original structure. Most of it is still down there, still buried, still waiting. And the cave systems themselves have never been fully mapped. Some of them are deep enough, and some of the chambers are large enough, that preserved structures from the ancient world could exist within them in a state of extraordinary preservation, protected from wind, from sun, from the erosive forces that destroy most archaeological sites across time. Think about what that means. There could be streets down there, intact streets. There could be pillars standing in underground darkness, exactly as they were placed 4,000 years ago, unseen by any human eye, since the day the earth closed over them. There could be rooms with walls still bearing inscriptions, texts that have never been read, in scripts that scholars have only partially deciphered, containing knowledge of the ancient world that we have lost entirely. There could be treasures, not in the romantic, adventure story sense, but in the archaeological sense. Objects, tools, textiles, pottery, the material evidence of a civilization that was, by every account, among the most sophisticated of the ancient world. A civilization that we know almost nothing about, because it vanished so completely. Somewhere beneath the sand of the empty quarter, the truth is still there, waiting. So does the city of Shaddad really exist under the desert? Here is what we know for certain. A powerful ancient civilization, the tribe of Ad, occupied the Arabian Peninsula thousands of years ago. They were real. Their existence is confirmed by archaeology, by inscriptions, by the material evidence pulled from the sands of southern Arabia. They were sophisticated builders. They controlled the frankincense trade that connected the ancient world. They were wealthy, beyond the imagination of their contemporaries. Here is what we know with very high confidence. A major settlement in the deep desert, a city at the heart of ancient Arabian trade routes, existed at a site that matches the geographical descriptions in the ancient texts. It was large, it was prosperous, and it ended in a sudden, catastrophic collapse rather than a gradual decline. Here is what we know archaeologically. The ground beneath the empty quarter contains vast cave systems capable of swallowing entire structures whole. The evidence at Shisr confirms that this is not theory, it has already happened. A city fell into the earth there, and most of it is still underground. Here is what we do not know. Whether what has been excavated is truly Iram, the city of Shaddad, or a related but distinct settlement. Whether deeper excavation of the site and the surrounding cave systems would reveal the golden streets, the gem-studded walls, the soaring pillars that the ancient accounts describe. Whether the name Shaddad refers to one historical king, or to a dynasty, or to a symbol that accumulated legend across generations the way rivers accumulate water. And here is what I believe, not as a historian, not as an archaeologist, but as someone who has spent time with this story and with the desert that keeps its secrets. The desert does not give things up easily. The empty quarter has been crossed by brave and brilliant people for centuries, and every one of them came back with the same feeling that the desert is not empty at all. That beneath the surface, beneath the silence, beneath the sand that swallows everything eventually, there is something. There is history. There is memory. There is a weight to that landscape that has nothing to do with the heat and everything to do with what lies beneath. Shaddad built his city as a monument to human ambition, the greatest ambition, the most absolute ambition. The ambition not just to be powerful, not just to be remembered, but to recreate paradise itself with human hands. And the ancient texts say that this specific ambition, this reaching beyond what human hands were ever meant to build, is exactly what destroyed him. Maybe that is the lesson that Iram was always meant to teach, not just as a parable, but as a physical, buried, waiting reminder. That the greatest achievements of human civilization are also its most fragile. That what we build with all our power and all our pride can vanish in a single night. That the desert, patient and enormous and indifferent, will always outlast the cities we raise against it. But maybe the lesson is also this: what the desert buries, it does not always destroy. Sometimes it preserves, sometimes it holds, sometimes it waits, with the patience that only geological time can manage, for someone to come along with the right tools, the right questions, and the right moment. The satellite found the roads. The excavation found the ruins. The cave systems have barely been touched. Somewhere beneath the shifting sands of the empty quarter, in the darkness of an underground chamber that no human eye has entered in 4,000 years, the city of Shaddad may still be standing, waiting, and the desert keeps its silence. For now,